All right, here we go. H for Hustle podcast. Welcome back. We have another great guest here today. We have Cathy Nesbitt from Cathy's Compost. Cathy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm excited, Jerome.
All right, so Cathy, you have a very interesting business, and I don't want to be the one to ruin how I explain it. So, if someone was to meet you and say, "What do you do for a living?" What would you say you do for a living?
Oh, that's a great start. I would say my working title is Cathy Crawley Laughing Bean Queen, which gets people's attention, right? They're like, "What?"
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
and then I say the Crawley is worm. So I have simple solutions for today's challenges. Worms for amending the soil. So that's the Crawley part.
Yeah.
Laughing. I'm a laughter yoga teacher. So that's the laughing part. And Bean Queen, it has actually a dual purpose for my title. I have a sprout growing business.
Okay.
So I sell sprouters and certified organic beans. And I also have a coffee, healthy gourmet coffee, so the bean could fit there too.
Wow. So it's a lot there. So let's go all the way back before we get into worms and composting and laughter yoga, which is all super interesting because I've never had anyone with all of those skill sets on the show.
Hey.
Let's go all the way back. What were you doing before all of this kind of started? What's your background?
Before I started living my life?
Yes, exactly.
Yes, instead of living the life that I was told that I was supposed to live?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, it was about 20 years. No, it was 20 years. It was 20 years. I was counting. I worked as a secretary. I grew up at a time when girls were told there was kind of 5 options that you could do as a work. So you could be a waitress, stewardess, flight nurse, teacher, or secretary. I thought it was a pretty random list, but I was like, okay, so of that list, I'm going to be a secretary. I took all the secretarial courses, and for 20 years, I was a secretary. And I didn't even know, there's no entrepreneurs in my family. I didn't have any mentors that had their own business. So everyone just told the line, that's what we did.
Gotcha.
Get a job, work hard, in 30 years you'll get a watch. Why do you need a watch when you retire? I don't know. Anyway, I never understood the whole thing, but I didn't know any different. So I went along. I actually was a great secretary. I was really, really good at it because I think you can learn anything.
Mm-hmm.
I had a great work ethic, and I really would encourage people whoever's listening, and if you're just thinking about being an entrepreneur or you're already in it, wherever you are in your journey, you have to work hard. Decide that you're going to, work hard and do what you're going to do.
Gotcha.
But if you're going to work hard, why not work hard for yourself?
Yeah, 100%. I believe that 100%.
And create your own thing.
So when you were a secretary, did you work for a big Fortune 500 company, or was it just a bunch of smaller mid-tier companies? What were you being a secretary?
Yes, thank you. I worked for a bunch of kind of known companies, smaller known companies.
Okay.
And then for the last 10 years, I was a temporary secretary working for an agency, where
Gotcha.
you would cover vacations and sick days and mat leave and that kind of thing.
Was that because you were just looking for variety, or you just were tired of being in one specific location?
Kind of both. And the pay was really good at that time. This was I would say in the late 80s.
Okay.
The pay was really good for temporary workers. I don't know why. It's different now. It kind of went down, but you got benefits and vacation pay and everything. So for me, it was great experience. I probably really enjoyed the variety. I kind of, I was, like I said, I was a great secretary, very adaptable. I could do all the jobs. It was a combination of the two. And I really liked traveling. So I would kind of squirrel away my money and then
Okay.
travel for a month or two, like in Europe or whatever.
Got you. Okay, so it gave you the flexibility to kind of do that. Okay, got it. So were you ever in your mind, like you said, you didn't grow up with entrepreneurs or have any of that around you. Were you ever in your mind sitting and being a secretary for someone else's business and thinking one day, like maybe I want to do my own thing, or you were just like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'll just do this and kind of go.
20 years. No.
Yeah. So you just
No,
worked. Got it.
apparently not. No, I didn't even know, I didn't even know that my skills were transferable. I mean, I would say that was a failing of the system.
Really? So you never
Yeah.
knew like you could take what you're doing now and turn it into something else.
I didn't know that all these skills that had as a secretary, customer service, marketing. I mean, I did everything. I was the
Yeah.
president secretary of a large watch company,
Yeah.
an international company. I was the gatekeeper. I mean, I
Yeah.
had all those skills. Public speaking, I had to go and,
Present
make up some
yourself.
story about the president, why he couldn't come to the phone. I mean, I had all those, but I didn't even know. I mean, a job would come up in another department, a higher paying job, more prestigious. And people would say, oh, you should apply for that. And I'd say, oh, I don't know how to do that. I don't know that job.
Yeah, you only knew a secretary and that was it. So
I knew so weird.
yeah, I know. But again, you're also thinking, like you said, you come from a very specific time where that was the thing you did. You worked 20 years, you got your watch, and then you retired and died, right? Like that was like the thing that you're supposed to do. So at
Yeah.
what point during your 20 years does the entrepreneur bug even like pop up, or that seed gets planted in your head? When did that, is that after you retire out, or how does that
No,
happen?
well, I didn't retire. No, I was, what did happen? I was getting my psych degree,
Okay.
and then I got a job at a group home. So I changed from secretarial to working with challenged adults,
Okay.
at a group home, and it was magnificent. I really thought, oh my gosh, this is what I was all about. Why did I work in an office all those years?
Like I wasted my time.
The challenge with working 9 to 5 is they pay you enough so that you kind of get the golden handcuffs. They pay you enough so you have a lifestyle. They
Yeah.
give you benefits. You have a pension. You get 2 weeks off. Yippee! Right?
Yeah.
But they keep you there. That it's like, and then once you get 3 weeks or 4 weeks, say you've been there for a few years. If you get 6 weeks holidays, how are you ever going to change jobs and go back to 2 weeks now?
Yeah, exactly. And then
Right?
they bumped your pay up enough for your lifestyle to get a little bit better, but not great, but just a little bit better. Got it.
Right. So I really think the system is flawed, Jerome. I think that we're not taught. Like now it's different. I think there's a lot more information. If people want to be entrepreneurs, I would say, just do some research. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
For me, what was the leap? Just so I got the job at the group home, and what happened there? Really funny how seeds do get planted.
Yeah.
When I bought my house, I moved out of Toronto. Was from large Toronto, and then I moved to a smaller town out of the city because that's where I could afford.
Okay.
Okay. Right? I mean,
That's
okay.
how it works.
So what happened? Oh gosh, that was 93. A teacher friend asked me to look after her worm bin. And I was afraid of worms. I didn't want worms in my house, but I knew, as an avid gardener, I knew the value of the compost.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I said, okay, and I think we should take on challenges. We should do things for ourselves. People will say, oh, you won't like that. Oh, thanks for saving me the time.
So hold on a second. A worm bin. What is a worm bin to for people who won't know what that is? So somebody says, "Hey, can you watch my worm bin?" Is it like pet sitting or dog sitting? Like how is it like?
Kind of is. So what I do, my Crawley business is worm composting.
Okay.
It's Cathy's Crawley composters, and it's indoor composting with worms.
Okay.
So it's just like regular composting done outside,
Okay.
with your leaves and your food scraps or your yard waste, and then eventually it turns into humus or that you can put in your garden. This is the same idea, except it's done inside with worms.
Got it. So your friend says, "Here, watch my compost for me for a couple of weeks, a month. How long?"
2 months. She was a teacher. She was going away for the summer.
Got it. So 2 months, you're just throwing trash inside of the compost. The worms are eating it up.
And they're in my basement.
And they're in your basement. So you don't do anything but just put garbage in there and leave.
Right.
Got it.
And it was horrible because I would just throw the scraps in. And so I was a fruit fly farmer. It was just like, it was really gross. And I was like, I said, I'm never doing this again.
Got it. So with that experience, you then say that seed's planted now. At the 2 months she comes back, you give her back her compost, and then you go on with your life. What plants in your head to
So
say
that was 93.
Okay.
I was in 93. Okay, I said I'm never doing it. If I want the compost next time, I'm just going to buy worm compost. I'll just buy it. Okay.
Yeah.
But you need to have worm farmers, right? If you want worm compost, you need worm farmers.
Yeah.
Have you ever met one?
No, I don't even know that existed.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not that common.
Okay.
So that's fine. Then I get this job at the group home, and they have 10 homes and a farm, and they don't compost. And I'm like, what? So I approached them. I said, why don't you compost? You know, all these homes, and they had a vocational program. The folks would come there to work. Mm-hmm. They had a greenhouse. Anyway, they said, oh, we don't need the fertilizer because we have cows. So they were getting cow manure. So they had the fertilizer for the gardens.
Yeah.
So I guess the entrepreneur in me, I didn't know, said, well, okay, if you don't need the fertilizer, you could always sell it. Like you could always just sell it. Have a business.
Yeah.
Anyway, so then the greenhouse manager said, well, why don't we do worm composting? And then I was like, oh, no, not the worms again. Right? It didn't work back in 93. I was like, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
Oh, no, here they are again. Here are the worms again.
Yeah. So what did you do then?
So then I was like, oh, I got that feeling. No, not the worms. But I was like, oh, it's an institution. They're not getting worms tomorrow.
Yeah.
They're going to have meetings, and, it's going to be like 6 months from now, they're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Set it up in the budget. Anyway, so I was like, okay, let me do some research. So I took to Google and I started researching vermicomposting. I had a massive shift. I was like, oh, these worms are amazing. Red wiggler worms, they eat half their weight per day. They turn garbage, like all organic matter or paper waste and food scraps they eat it and turn their poo or their compost is nature's finest fertilizer. It's plant food.
Wow.
It returns the nutrients back to the soil. Oh my gosh, massive shift. I was like, so I heard that a pound of worms and their descendants could transform a ton of organic waste in a year. And I heard that the average Canadian / probably American family produces a ton of organic waste in a year. So I thought, every family needs a pound of worms. And I'm just the one to put a pound of worms in every house.
So you hear that, you do your research, and then you're like, okay, a pound of worms. If I get a pound of worms, this thing can go off. So do you get the pound of worms for that institution you're working for?
So here's what happened. So I'm researching. I'm all fired up. Wow, these worms are cool. I tried to buy worms. It was August. I couldn't buy worms. I couldn't find any worms. So I was like, that's interesting. You can't get red wigglers in Canada year round. Right? Second seed.
Yeah.
Right? Interesting. And then, so all that time I was bringing the compost home from my work because I'm an avid composter. I would say I'm a rabid environmentalist.
Okay.
And I just divert things and I save things, and I'm probably ridiculous anyway, but it's for the good of the planet, even my little piece. I don't know. I'm doing what I can.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was bringing home all my scraps. Now it was time for my composter to be emptied. And oh my gosh, like I would bring home 30 pounds of food waste every shift.
Oh, wow.
Wow. From one house.
Yeah.
That was just the house that I worked at. Wow.
And there's 10 houses on the facility.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, and I would just toss it in. I really wasn't doing anything with it because I didn't have time. I was working pretty hard at the group home. I mean, I love that work. Okay. So I'm emptying my composter, and in my, before emptying my composter, I actually had a vision. I had, I don't know, a daydream. I don't know what happened, but I woke up. I had a dream that I was harvesting worms without gloves. And it was like, oh, that's weird. I woke up and I was like, I don't know what that dream was. Weird. Okay. And then I go to empty my composter, and there's red wiggler worms in my backyard composter, Jerome. I couldn't buy them.
Where did they come from?
They came from all the food that I put there. I have no idea.
Oh.
God put them there. I don't know, but I was like, and I had that dreams, and I had an empty container. I was like, oh my, I grabbed those worms. They were the seed stock of my business. They were the first worms of my business.
Really? So then, so you get red wiggler worms out of nowhere, and they show up. And then how does that start your business now?
Okay, so there they are. I have a thing because I'm like, let me try this again. I'm still at the group home. Then I get injured. I got injured at work. I didn't have a safety net. I was a freelance behavior management specialist.
Okay.
Sounds impressive, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't fit on a business card. Okay, so when I got injured, I was stressed. It was hard going into work because I felt ineffective.
Yeah.
I came home from work. There was an ad in the paper, and it said, "Are you a woman? Do you have a business idea?" Yes, yes. It was a 6-month course to write a business plan.
Okay.
I turned to my husband. I said, "I'm quitting my job. I'm taking this course. I'm starting a worm business. Won't this be fun?"
I know he must have looked at you like, worms? What, are you crazy?
He knows me, Jerome. He said, "Yes, dear."
So you take this course now. What do you learn in this course?
So I took the course, wrote a business plan. That was 2002. Started my business. And believe it or not, 2002, there was a garbage strike in Toronto.
Okay.
So in the summer, so we have a similar climate. In the summer, it's really hot. Hot and humid, stinky and smelly when you have a garbage strike.
Yeah.
So we have a garbage strike. And I was like, people were lining up for like 2 or 3 hours to drop their garbage at the landfill because they didn't want it piling up anymore at home.
Yeah.
And I was like, those people don't compost, because if you compost, you take the stink out of the garbage.
Oh.
The strike could be forever. You don't care. You don't have any stinky garbage at home. You're composting.
Gotcha. Yeah, you just throw it in your composter and the worms take care of it.
Right.
Got it.
So I decided to go on a road trip. Now, I don't know, early on, I chose media as my marketing strategy. So I sent out, probably I learned that in the business course.
Okay.
So I sent out press releases to the Toronto outlets that I was coming to town. And 5 minutes after sending my press release, a reporter from the Toronto Star phoned me and said, "Thank you for your press release. I did an article on composting last week, but forgot about the apartment dwellers. This is indoor composting." He said, "After you go to the transfer station, can you come to the Star? I'd like to interview you."
Wow. 5 minutes just like that. It just seems like you had like perfect timing with a lot of this stuff. Like it just seemed like your timing was impeccable.
Overnight success. Yeah. 20 years.
All right. So the Star calls you, you get a write-up, and what happens after that write-up happens?
You're not going to believe it. So July 18th. Oh, it was my anniversary recently, or it's coming. Yeah. Oh, it just was. Yeah, so July 18th, 2002, I get my first article in the Toronto Star. Okay. I phoned up my husband. Yippee! I got an article in the Toronto Star. That's my market, right? I live in a small town. We don't have apartments. Yeah. Right. So, he said to me, he said, I'm on my way home. I just got downsized. He got downsized the same day I had my article in the Star. And now, oh my gosh, I was like this entrepreneur thing. If your listeners or your watchers, really, if you're thinking about this, be ready for the ride of your life.
Yeah. It definitely is.
Right, like grab hold, because you don't know what it's like. I got an article in the Star, and then the next phone call. Holy shit! What?
We're out of work. What do you mean you're out of work? I got a fledgling business here.
Oh my gosh! Wow, we sell worms by the pound. How can this be?
Yeah. So
18 years later, stay with it, folks. If you believe, you can have it.
Got it. Wow. So you get this good news and bad news literally minutes away from each other. What happens next?
Okay, so then I'm like feeling defeated. I probably drank a bit that day.
Understandable.
Okay. You can take that out or leave it. Okay, fine. Okay, so well, what did I do? Well, I stayed in it. So my husband said, he always wanted to have his own business too. Okay. So he decided that he was going to start a web design business. So this is 2002. It's still early days for internet.
Yeah.
Um, but they were teaching web design in high school.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of competition. He had lots of competition. I have none. I'm very outgoing. So I was doing a lot of networking. Here's
Yeah.
another nugget for those that are watching that are just starting or wanting to start networking.
Yeah.
Just start me. And it's harder now with COVID, but there's Zoom things. There's all kinds of ways to keep connected.
Yeah.
You got to meet people, because not everybody you meet you're not selling to everybody you meet.
Yeah.
You just want to connect with people, and who do they know? And everybody knows somebody that needs what you have.
Yeah. One of was a guy that I always bring up, this quote from Marco Salazar. He says, your next opportunity is connected to another person. And it's always true. And it doesn't mean that it's that specific person you speak to, but it maybe 2-3 people removed that the story might get to. And, you might have made an impact on one person, and they could have said, hey, you know that you want to compost? I know somebody. And then boom, there you go. A sale just happened just like that.
That's right.
Got you. So you started network. Go ahead.
That's why I do these kind of things. That's why I chose media, because worms is a kind of a funny topic. It's a funny business, and not for everybody.
Yeah.
But now that you've met me, if anybody ever asks about worms, you'll know where to send them.
Exactly, because I don't know anyone else in the worm business. Got it. So you don't have any competition. You just started. You're kind of going, you're networking, and you're just kind of growing and growing and growing. So exactly what are you selling? Are you selling just worms in the bag? So if I was to order back in 2002, what am I getting? Am I getting just a bag of worms in like a bucket? Like what would I be getting?
So back in 2002, we were selling worms by the pound or half pound.
Okay.
For the do-it-yourselfer, so you could get your own like Rubbermaid container, set up your bedding. It's really just shredded paper, soil, eggshells, and water. That's your bedding.
Got it.
Yeah. So you mix that up, and then you add your food scraps in. So yes, for the do-it-yourselfers, they would just order worms. We did have a kit, so you could get the whole kit, and it came with instructions and whatnot.
Got it. So the strike is happening. You get this press. Do you get a bump in sales with the press that comes out, or it just goes flat? What happens?
It gave me it gave me a rush of I did get some feedback from that. I didn't necessarily get direct sales.
Okay.
Again, selling worms is not something that everybody needs. You kind of got to warm up to the idea. What happened? Again, I would say I chose to do this business full time. I was like, I don't want to do this gig part time. I want to be full in. I want to focus on this.
Okay.
So when you focus, things happen. But that's not to say that, there was my husband doing the web business.
Yeah.
He's an introvert. He doesn't like networking. So I would be at networking events and say, hey, I do worms, my pitch. And then I would say, do you need a website? Oh, let me take your card. My husband's a website editor, promoting for both of us. And that was 5 years. So I was getting some stuff for him, and, we're kind of just cobbling our way along. That's what you do at the beginning, folks.
Yeah. A lot of the time, too.
You do what you can and stick with it. It's the universe asking you, are you sure? Are you sure? Like, are you sure? Because you could get a job. And there's lots of times where I was like, where's my resume? Let me get my resume out. This, people aren't ready for this.
But what was the thing that kept you from not going back? Like you said, those moments where you're looking like, I could just send out a couple of resumes and get a secretary job in a second, right? Like what was the thing that kept you at it?
I had tasted the freedom of setting my own time and being my own boss. And I once you start getting some rewards by, if we had more time, I would tell you about some of the super cool things I've manifested. And it's just like, wow, I never would have had that opportunity if I stayed in the office.
Gotcha. Can you give me one? Could you give us one of those things? Like you manifested?
Yeah. So my husband and I'm a true believer in like the law of attraction and all of that. Okay. So we're walking in my favorite forest, just walking along, chat. And I have no idea, when things pop into my mind, I have to just say them, because again, I think that's the universe giving you something.
Yeah. I call it the downloads. The downloads. Yeah, they just come.
They just come. You don't know why. Anyway, so we're walking in this inspired place. I mean, it's right. A forest is gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I turned to my husband, I said, I want to do a workshop in PEI. That's a province in Canada.
Okay.
I had never been there. So I was like, that's okay. And then we got on with our chat. 2 days later, I came home from a workshop that I had done. And my husband said, guess who called? And I said, I don't know. And he said, where'd you say you wanted to go? And I said, I don't know. I say a lot of things. True story. And he said, PEI called and they want you to come and do a workshop.
How did that happen?
I said it to the universe. Well, it was in a forest. I don't know.
Wow. That's so
I believed, I don't know. I really don't know. I really don't think I put much energy on it. I clearly wanted it more than I thought.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. So Canada's, we like where you are, it's not that warm in the winter.
Yeah.
PEI is an island, right? Prince Edward Island is an island. So it's a summer place.
Okay.
Okay, the speaking gig was for November.
Wow, so it's freezing up there at that time.
I had the beach to myself. I was like, oh, be more specific to the universe.
Yeah. Like I want a speaking gig in the summer.
Right? Really, we have to be specific. What do you want? And then really carve it out because it will come.
Got it. That's super cool. So after 5 years, you've made that, like, you got over the threshold, right, of like where most people kind of quit and you're kind of in it. What happens then? When does like does the business kind of, is it just slow ticking for the past 5 years? Does it like boom after that, or?
Oh no, it just boomed during COVID.
Okay. Got it. So you've been kind of doing this the whole time, and it just now kind of peaked. And funny you bring that up, because I was doing some research before I actually got on the call, and gardening and in-home gardening has been a big uptick. And especially for me, I kind of was like, when this whole thing started, I was like, my dad always planted like peppers and tomatoes and mints in the summertime, and callaloo and stuff like that. He always planted those things, but it was never really in me. But as soon as this thing happened, I'm like, we have to rely on supermarkets that are not going to be open. I got to plant my own food. So I literally went and got some seeds, got some soil, and I just started planting. So now I have like green onions or scallions and peppers and what's the other thing that I'm growing? So and tomatoes outside on the balcony right now, and I'm growing that. But when I looked, like YouTube videos of gardening and in-home gardening or apartment gardening has gone up. Gardening in general has gone up through this whole thing. So do you think that's the biggest reason why you got this massive uptick?
Absolutely. Yes.
Got it.
And schools were closed. So, schools have been closed since March.
Yeah,
so,
that's true too.
Parents are homeschooling. At the beginning, they were looking for projects for the kids.
Got it. Okay. So, and the worm composting is just like a project that they thought it was something.
It's so beautiful. That's a main part of my gig. I don't know what's going to happen when school goes back. I'm not sure if they're going to have guests come in.
Got you. So you used to go to school and educate on.
So over 75,000 students have seen my presentation.
Got it.
So, over the years, I started, so early on, actually, I started doing trade shows and farmers markets and that kind of thing, outdoor events, to promote what I was doing. And I realized that people were afraid of worms like I was. And I was like, how am I going to put worms in every house if people are afraid? Because if you're afraid, you're not hearing the message.
Yeah.
Like if you're like, ew, or whatever experience you've had with worms. Like I realize now, I have a psych degree.
Okay.
And I realize now that people, I'm meeting a lot of adults that were traumatized as kids by worms. After a raid in the schoolyard, somebody putting them down their shirt or whatever.
So you almost have to like educate the kids to then go home and educate the parents, and you're doing a lot of unlearning to then teach the actual proper use of what a worm is.
Yeah.
Got it.
And how important they are. Like we really don't even realize how valuable, we know a lot about the stars and the ocean, not everything yet. We know very little about where our food comes from.
Yeah.
If we feed the soil, we don't need to feed the plant. Like stop putting blue fertilizer on your plants because it's not natural. Blue is only blueberries.
Yeah.
If it's blue, it's chemicals.
Got it. and then teaching that. So you do a lot of teaching and teaching the generation to come. So, and then with that then in turn equals sales, or no? How does that work when you go out and do the farm
Well,
marketing?
I get paid. I get paid to do the school workshops.
Okay, got you. And then do you leave like one of those composters in the schools? And
Yes, I
okay,
do.
got it. Okay, so then it's like an educational thing that keeps going. So what does somebody do with the dirt that they get or the compost after the worm compost? What do they do with it? They put it in their garden? What are they supposed to do with it?
Yes, yeah, it's perfect plant food. It's converted the material into the way that plants require it.
Okay,
So so the compost and the plants have this beautiful relationship because
gotcha.
the compost is living. The
Uh-huh.
compost is actually all kinds of microbes.
Got it. And once the worm processes that, it processes out the best food for a plant.
Exactly.
Got it. All right. And again, why I'm asking and trying to get so detailed, it's like a very specific and very interesting business. Like this is not like, oh, I have a retail shop. It's literally like worms that most people don't know much about. So now in 2020, your business is taking a boom because of what's going on in COVID. But how are you been able to stay resilient through this time? I mean, you have 20 years in the worm business, which you have to be resilient in general. But how have you
Yes.
been resilient through this last couple of months?
So over the years, I've got the worm composting, sprout growing. So I actually do have a sprouter unit. So
Okay.
again, just like gardening, this is a way to grow your multivitamin at home.
So sprouts are what, like wheatgrass? What are sprouts technically?
Kind of.
Okay.
You know the bean sprouts in Chinese food.
Yes.
Yes. So those are mung beans,
Okay.
and so those are the ones that I grow. But you eat them; they're most nutritious when the root is the size of the bean. So
Got
just
it.
as they just started to germinate,
Okay.
and everything's there to grow that little sprout into a full grown plant. So the nutrients and the flavor are condensed there.
So you sell a package together. So the composter with the
Oh, it's
sprouter.
separate. No, it's separate.
Okay, okay, got it. So how did you get into the sprout? How did the sprout lead? How did the composting and the worm business lead you to sprouts?
Oh my gosh. How much time do we have? So many stories. Really, this is what I want people to understand is you don't know when you're going to go somewhere and meet somebody who's going to impact your life.
Okay,
2002 was a huge year for me. I
okay,
started my worm business and I met at one of my very first exhibits. They're called CD Saturday. I'm not sure if you have them in the US, but they're called CD Saturday events, CD Saturday Sunday,
yeah.
CD, SEEDY, like
What is
seed.
that?
It's like heritage heirloom seeds. It's all the seed savers
Okay,
from the vegetables.
gotcha.
Yeah, so they're really avid gardeners and growers. So we have those events. They start in February and they kind of go March or April. I mean, not this year so much. At my very first one, I met this gentleman. He was selling the sprout grower, and I didn't know anything about sprouts or sprouting.
Mm-hmm.
He was 72. He's still alive. He's 91 this year. And he said, I said to him, what is that sprout? What is that spaceship thing? And why is everyone buying that and not my worms? And so he told me about his sprout grower, about sprouts and why to eat them and how to grow them. And he was 72. He's a ballroom dancer, super healthy, still doing this business. Like, I was like, wow, my gosh, look at you. I said, I
Yeah,
want that. I don't need to know. Like some people need to know all the details about how something works or
yeah,
why. I don't need to know. I look at you, I'm like, oh, I want what you have.
yeah, and that's it.
You
You're
look
so,
good.
yeah.
You look good. So he said, okay, well, if you're going to do this, start your day with 2 tablespoons of sprouted beans for
Mm-hmm.
the enzymes, up to 100 times more digestive enzymes in raw sprouts than raw vegetables.
Wow.
Wow. Thank you. Wow. If we're not adding enzymes into our diet, as we start to age, we get digestive issues. And
Yeah.
then we go to the doctor and the doctor says, here's a prescription for enzyme pills.
When you could
Like,
just be taking natural enzymes.
yeah, just grow your own. Grow your own. For pennies, right? For
Yeah.
pennies a day. We don't have pennies anymore, but if we did.
So because of that, you got into the sprout business, or did he help you
Oh,
along the way?
Not initially. No, I was a user for 10 years. I used the sprout grower for 10 years. Every
Okay.
day I would eat it, and I would see, Tony is his name, I would see Tony at these events, and I would say to the people at his booth, you should buy one. It's really great, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure they thought I was a plant. It's a sprout. Thank you. When was it? Oh, it was not till 2012, believe it or not, 2012, 10 years in. I was at an event with him and he said, hey, why don't you sell this with your worm business? And I was like, oh my gosh, why don't I? I love it. That's a great idea.
And you were already using it and seeing the benefits within
10
yourself.
years.
Yeah.
10 years. Look at me, 20 years. I guess it takes me a long time.
So you get into that business, and does it dramatically change how your business operates now within the worms as well?
Well, you can imagine that selling something for health and wellness is easier than having worms in the house.
Gotcha.
Even if there's a partnership, there's usually one that might be avid gardener. They know about the soil, they know about the worms, they're
Mm-hmm.
okay. The other spouse is going to be like, there's no way in hell we're having worms in the house.
Gotcha. But worms don't smell, they don't cause any problems in the house, so there's no real reason why you couldn't have them, right?
Right. It's just our belief and it's what we think we know and just our fear, right? The fear of the unknown.
Got it. Okay. So then you're in sprouts, and now you're in worms, and then you're doing that business, and you see a dramatic jump within your business within adding the sprouts to it.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. It was just kind of another thing, an easier thing. When I went to networking, I could now sell something on the spot.
Got it. Okay.
Like the worms, I say it's about a 3-year sales cycle. If you've never heard of Verdi composting, you're like, what? Worms in the house? And then you remember me, like you're like, oh, I met this crazy chick at this networking thing and she wants me to put worms in the kitchen. Okay, yeah. All right. Right? And then they see me again and they're like, I've been thinking about you since I saw you last time. I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
Because I get inside people's heads because it really makes sense.
Yeah. And
Really.
funny, New York City had started a composting service, but they kind of stopped it because they received so much, like because they had gave people like two trash bins. So you had your regular trash, and then you had trash where you had to put like food and all organics, like if you eat apples and grapes or whatever. But they just received so much garbage that they couldn't like handle it. But there's states like Oregon, I know Austin, they're definitely big cities that focus on composting and having that something in the house. So I know those things kind of go, but it again, it's a mindset shift that they have to work about, like pushing. And it coming from the state and making a mandatory thing in your house, I could see it being a big thing. But having the composters and the worms is something that's not talked about, which would make even more sense because you can just do it on your own. You don't need New York City to help mandate it for you to do it.
And the cost of those organic collection programs, they're ridiculous. Really, I would, whenever I go to a school and a different town and I ask them, oh, do you have a green bin? We call it the green bin here, organic collection program. And when they say no, they're like, oh, no, we don't have it. Like, boo, we don't have it. I say, good. Because it really is, if you look at the recycling programs,
Mm-hmm.
the recycling bins are all contaminated. It's not working because we're dependent on independent user to do the right thing, and people don't do the right thing because we don't know what to do.
So it's teaching them to have this composter in the house, and your goal is to try to make sure every household has one of these things. So it should be right alongside your garbage. There should be a composter right next to it.
Can you imagine? Like, can you imagine if we spent all of that on my TED Talk? I can't remember what the stats were. There's a beautiful book. It talked about the garbage in the States. Like Toronto spends $350 million a year on their green bin program.
Yeah.
I think New York spends that just on transportation.
Yeah, and they stopped the program because I don't know if it was a cost thing or just too much trash that it was just receiving at the time, or the organic. They just couldn't compost it fast enough, So again, the idea I think was good, but like you're saying, adding the next layer of having worms would probably take it to a whole nother level.
Mm. Yeah, and back to the individual, right? Because then it's us doing it at home.
Yeah.
everyone being responsible for their own rather than, let the
Everybody.
government look after it.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Which never.
government the government isn't doing things well already, right?
Yeah,
Like they
yeah.
have to contend with.
We've never went to a DMV and went through really quickly. Like, so the government doesn't know how to do things well. The
Yeah.
post office, the DMV, the everywhere that the government runs.
So back to your podcast and your viewers. I would say, how do you decide what should you do? Like, should you buy a franchise? Should you, how are you going to be your own boss?
Yeah.
I would say figure out what it is that fires you up. Like, what do you love to do, or where's there a problem where you're like, oh my gosh, this problem, I can fix that. I know what to do.
Gotcha.
If you know what to do for a problem, then that's a business, right? Like I had a solution for compost for apartment dwellers.
Yeah.
They don't have a backyard. Now they can have this worm bin in their house.
And the timing kind of mapped itself out for you.
Sure did.
Got it. So there's a person right now, they're sitting on the sidelines. They're dying a slow death. They're in that office. They hate it. They just came off a furlough. They're mad that they have to go back. What would you tell that person who's sitting on the sidelines? They want to do something, but they're scared, or they have the fear of making a decision on doing it. What would you tell that person?
I would tell that person to go inside, like really take some time and figure out what it is that they want their life to look like. Bob Proctor, many people, he's a big motivational speaker. He's a secret. Bob Proctor talks about most people, I don't even know if this is his quote, but most people are playing a supporting role in their own life. Like, be the director, live your life. What do you want? Figure out what you want, because time is going by and nobody's going to bring it to you. And you talked about, at the beginning, people, or maybe this was off before, but, people, once you start your own thing, those that are working in corporate are going to not want you to do your own thing. They're going to try and drag you back and tell you can't do it. And they'll be naysayers because they never did it.
Yeah.
So I would say, don't listen to those folks. Look up, look for someone who can help you. What is it that you want to do? Find someone doing that and model that person. Ask them, get in touch with them, take them for lunch, or buy them a Zoom coffee.
Zoom coffee. That's a real thing these days.
I know.
But
yeah,
direct your life, find what you want to do in your life, and find other people who are doing exactly what you want to be doing, and try to get around them as much as possible.
Yes, get around people that can build you up, because otherwise the others are going to drag you down.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and here's a great example. If you're a smoker and you're like, I really want to quit smoking. All smokers do, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're a smoker and you want to quit smoking, as soon as you say to your friends and your family, I'm going to quit smoking, all your smoker friends are going to be like, yeah, sure, Cathy, you can't quit.
Yeah.
Who do you remember last time? Let's go for a smoke. Come on.
Yeah.
Because if you quit smoking, what does that say about them? Now they got to quit, or it's harder to be friends because.
Or they're standing outside by themselves in the cold and without you there. Yeah.
So just make sure that you're being built up by people rather than just held in place.
Gotcha. So what about, this is a question specifically for you, because you didn't get into like a traditional business that everyone could like understand and recognize right away, right? You saw the benefit in it and you stuck around till it actually, paid dividends. But how does someone deal with the fear or the ridicule of like the worm lady, or let's say you want to be the shoe guy or the oil guy or the, like there's these weird businesses that people are going to ridicule you for. How did you deal with that? Like people are looking at you like you're nuts, or, the craziness that the business that you're looking to start.
Yeah. Well, I wear the moniker well now. I mean,
okay.
That's how people call me. And it's really interesting when I see people and their kids are like, there's the worm woman. And then the parent is like, embarrassed. Oh, and it's like, no, that's fine. That's my name.
Yeah. So how did you get over that? Because in the beginning, it couldn't have been easy.
No, in the beginning, it was it was effing hard, really. It was a challenge, but I knew in my heart that it was, that, you know, that's why it's really important that early on in my early years, I had a beautiful mentor, Donna Messer, and she's passed, but oh my gosh, she was so inspiring. She just was like, this is so great, this is the world needs this, and da da da, and you gotta stick. And so you need cheerleaders, because otherwise you need to just get a job, because it's going to be too hard. You're gonna it's really going to drag you down. You gotta really believe in your heart and know that what you're doing is right. And then every day is like a magic carpet ride. I mean, like there's hard days. You said at the beginning, it can be lonely. It's really lonely. That's where networking comes in. It's part social, part business.
Yeah.
You get to know people. We do business with the people that we know, like, and trust.
That's exactly what it is.
All of these networking groups, maybe we're not, we are supporting each other. It is kind of funny. Like if I'm looking for a mechanic, I'm not going to one of the big chains. I'm going to go to my
local
group.
guy.
Who do you know?
Yeah.
Right. Just really feel in your heart. There is going to be naysayers. You do need to develop some, like, work on yourself. I would say work on yourself.
Got you. And in what ways would you say? Read books, watch podcasts? What would you tell the people to, like, would they work on yourself? How did you work on yourself?
Yeah, I took improv.
Really? That's interesting.
Improv is the most fun course. I would encourage everyone to take an improv course, no matter what you're doing. Like, I don't do it as, well, I guess it is included in my speaking, because I don't get thrown off when somebody heckles me. I just, I
use it and then flow with it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I did one improv class where we had to throw a ball and tell a story and keep the story going. Yeah, that was like really interesting. So somebody's like, I'm moving and da-da-da-da. And then they threw the ball and you had to keep adding to the story, and it just got more and more complex. And then, whoever dropped the ball or dropped the conversation, you had to start again and do something different, which I thought was really, really good. It keeps you on your toes, keeps you alert. And, your reaction time is just really, really good.
Yeah. Someone told me at the beginning, when you work at home alone, sometimes you have a task that has to be done, like something that you're working on that has to get done, and you just have a block. You can't seem to get it. You can't get to it. You keep on getting distracted. They said, if you are in that situation, get out of your house.
Yeah.
Like, go for a walk.
Yeah. Change the environment.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I don't have time. I got to get this thing done. You're not getting it done already. So why not go take a half-hour walk or 20 minutes and refresh yourself, and then
change the conversation, change the mind frame, just the situation. Yeah. I'm a big believer in that too. So now, for early stage entrepreneurs right now, it's just a very turbulent time, right? Like, it's a very, very turbulent time for people. It reminds me of 2008, 2009. Even if there is money in the market, a lot of people are kind of scared to spend it, or they don't know, or right now, a lot of people don't have it. But what would your advice be for someone starting out, and they're starting out right now? 2020 pandemic is, full blown. What would you tell that person starting out a business right now?
So kind of a safe way to get into entrepreneurship is, I don't know we never talked about this, but is direct sales. And there's literally thousands of direct sales companies where you're working from home. You can write off part of your living expense, whatever your living expenses, and you can kind of dabble in there. You can still have your job and maybe prospect your coworkers, but there's all kinds. I mean, I'm in an MLM, and I think that our direct sales, I believe that direct sales is going to be just another piece of what people do. Like, when you're an entrepreneur, it's not like you're just one job. Like, I'm also the janitor.
Yeah.
I feed the worms and I do the chopping. And
you do everything. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's, when you're small and we've, my husband and I, it's supporting us full time. That's what I didn't say. 5 years in, what happened 5 years in was, we had a chat, and it was like, the web business isn't going as planned, and neither's the worm business. So why don't we merge our talents? And so my husband joined the worm business, and
Took off
And
from
then we
there.
did flourish. Like
Yeah.
from there, it was like now our energy was focused on one
Gotcha.
venture.
Instead of splitting resources and splitting each other's minds, you can say, you take this piece, I'll take that piece. You go from here. Yeah, got it. That's
You know,
nice.
what are you good at? What am I good at?
Yeah, and then work from there. Got it. And it's like getting a co-founder in a business and then kind of growing from there.
Yeah.
Cool.
And another thing, I said at the beginning that I wanted to do this full time. I didn't want to, dabble around. But having said that, we did find paid gigs, at like Home Depot and stuff, how they have, or whatever. Is Home Depot American?
Yeah.
Okay. You never know what's what. Okay. Like at Home Depot, how they have people demoing products and stuff. Yeah. So we did that. That was pretty good. That was pretty good cash. Like,
Gotcha.
again, they pay you and it's not a big commitment. It's a weekend gig, a couple of weekends.
But that also then helps you with your own personal business and on demonstration skills and then putting yourself forward and all those things. And then you start planting seeds like, maybe I could do this at the farmer's market and maybe I could do this in my own business here and there. Gotcha. So it all feeds into the one pipeline.
It all feeds into the skills that you need as an entrepreneur. You have to be able to speak. You have to be able to be comfortable with your message.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe Toastmasters might be, or a speaking organization to help you if you're afraid of public speaking. Get over it. You that's something like get a job then.
You're gonna have to sell yourself and sell your business all the time.
And sales, like when people say, "Oh, I hate selling," salespeople are this or that. Then get a job, because having your own business is sales. You're always selling yourself, always.
And no matter what business, you could be in real estate. You could be in, the tree business. You're gonna have to sell yourself, and you're gonna have to present yourself to a customer or a potential prospect or a partner or whatever. So you're always selling yourself.
Yeah, and sales is service. If we look at sales, like you're offering something good, hopefully you believe in what you're selling.
Yeah.
So then it's like, this will help you, whatever it is that you have.
100%. So I always like to ask this, is there a resource, a book, a podcast, something that changed you or inspired you or made you have a dynamic shift that you can recommend to the audience?
Oh, that's I wish I'd known you were going to. Oh, let's see. Oh, there's so many. I have
Take your time. We can edit out all the thinking parts.
Okay. Oh, it's like there's so many. Let's see. Like one's over mindset. I would say like one that's really good to get yourself over yourself is Who Moved My Cheese?
Nice. That's such a good book.
A short little read, but such a great message.
Yeah. It's always keep going. Always try to find the cheese. Right? Yeah. Such a good book. Any others?
Well, T. Harv Eker, Millionaire Mindset for Money.
Gotcha.
I would say, money, money's not my driver. It really is not my driver. We need to have money in our society. So make sure that you do put money closer to the top. I realize now I'm definitely more successful money-wise now than I was. I mean, I don't have a huge lifestyle, so I don't need a lot of money. But the more money you have, the more good you can do in the world.
Yeah.
Right? The more you can give away or whatever. Yeah.
Or just fund the things that you want to help see more come to the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, cool. So do you think a lot of your success in the 20 years have been all luck, or has it been all your hustle?
Combination. I mean, it's a lot mindset. I do feel very like a very fortunate person. I don't know. It's a lot of hustle. Like it's funny. It doesn't feel like a hustle because I love what I'm doing, and I'm just like I really love sharing. So when I I do a lot of networking. Whenever I find something that I love, I talk about it. I'm just sharing it all the time.
Yeah.
And that's I'm in I'm in a referral network now, and it's all about, I'm not buying from all those people, but I'm definitely
connecting. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. So affiliates and stuff, Jerome, for the people watching, there's so many ways to make money now. So many ways. I have a friend who, she just looks around. She would go to garage sales when we could have garage sales
Mm-hmm.
and buy all the stuff and then turn around and sell it online. Like, it was just like she funded her schooling through
Yeah.
buying
Flipping
and selling
things.
junk.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a person I'm trying to get on the podcast. He goes by Taco Stacks on YouTube. He literally drives around Pennsylvania, picks up trash, and then sells it back on Etsy and in markets, local markets. And he's sustained a full life. Bought a house, brand new trucks. Like, there's great life for himself. And he picks up garbage. That's his 100% full-time job. He drives around. He knows all the towns, all the garbage routes, and he literally picks up trash that people throw out, and then he resells it and makes a great living for himself. And with that, it just shows you that anything is possible.
Anything is possible. That's a great place to end. Anything is possible, everybody.
Yeah. Well, if people want to reach out to you, buy some worms, learn more about Cathy, where would they go to find out all of that?
So they can go to my website, Cathy's Composters. I have a few websites, but that's probably the best one. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. They can find me. Just Google me.
And before we go, you touched on this in the beginning, and I really just have to ask, laughter yoga. Can you give me like the quick 5-minute version of what laughter yoga is, and how did you get into that? Like the quick version. Yeah.
Okay. So laughter yoga is not about fancy pants or poses. Laughter yoga is intentional laughter exercises designed to make us feel better. Like, we all know laughter is the best medicine. We've heard it. Mm-hmm. And we all know when we've had a good belly laugh and our cheeks are hurting, our sides hurting. Those are the laughter muscles. If you get those when you laugh, that means you're not laughing enough. I have rock hard abs, by the way, and I don't do yoga, or, I do ride a bike though. I laugh a lot. So we can live without food and water for a few days. It might, we're going to be grumpy and uncomfortable. We can only live without oxygen for a few minutes. So laughter forces us to oxygenate our whole body. And it's scientifically proven. The brain requires 25% more oxygen than the rest of the body as an operating principle. When we're stressed, we're not breathing properly, so our body's not getting what it needs. For sure, our brain isn't. Like, have you ever lost your keys and you're like flapping around, where are my keys? Yeah. Right? The longer you flap around, you're never finding your keys. Your brain's like, they're right over there, but I'm literally being deprived of oxygen.
Got it.
You have to stop, take a breath. Laugh it off, ha ha ha, apologize to all the people. So this came to me. I had no idea there was such a thing as laughter yoga. Again, at an event, somebody did a little intro thing of laughter yoga. I was like, laughter yoga, what the heck is that? Thought it was interesting. Thought no more till later that same week at a networking event. The very first person I met was a laughter yoga teacher. I was like, laughter yoga twice in 1 week? I said, laughter yoga mainstream. He said, no, it isn't. And so there was literally hundreds of people at this giant networking event. So that night we palled around together. Every person we met, I said, have you heard of laughter yoga? Have you heard of laughter yoga? Have you heard of laughter yoga? And nobody had. And I was like, I'm not sure why the universe provides these things to me, not before everybody, but before the masses. Mm-hmm. I guess I'm a good spokesperson to deliver these things. Yeah. Now I'm a laughter teacher, and I can tell you, laughter has enhanced my life. For 5 years, I've been laughing, like 10 to 15 minutes of sustained belly laughter, like hard ha 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 laughter, is equal to about 300 sit-ups. Wow. I know. And we feel good, right? The endorphins get flying. Like, when we're stressed, we're secreting cortisol. Yeah. We need some of that to push us. When we're laughing and smiling, we're secreting dopamine and serotonin. Yeah. Yep.
And we need a lot of that. Yeah.
The love drugs.
It's nice. And then it's also something that, we kind of knock that out of kids when they get to a certain age, and we're told that's not funny, don't laugh about that, and it's serious. So the fact that laughter and the laughter yoga is actually a thing. You know, I'm really interested. I'm gonna start Googling like laughter yoga and see what this is all about.
Check out my website. I have it's cathysclub.com, and I have all kinds of information. It's the 25th anniversary.
Really, of laughter yoga?
Of laughter yoga. It started in India by a medical doctor, Dr. Madan Kataria, and his goal is world peace through laughing. So he now, I mean, in India, there's less rules about what you can do, but he's going into schools. He's added laughter yoga into the curriculum in India. Wow.
Yeah.
He goes into prisons, works with the guards as well as the inmates, military, police. I mean, these are all areas where we need more laughter. We need people to connect better. You know, it really just raises you to a different level when you're laughing.
Got it. Well,
it's really important. I mean, I know I could just go on about all these things. And back to your people watching, I would say again, or listening, I would say, can you hear the passion in my voice when I talk about all of these things that I'm doing?
Yeah, definitely.
Live your life passion.
And that's the thing that I really made me want to interview you, because you found a way to make a living for yourself doing what the non-conventional way. You know, it's like laughter yoga is not mainstream. Worms is not a mainstream thing, but you found a way to provide for yourself. And what I keep trying to just display to the audience listening and watching is that you can find a way to sustain yourself doing the things. And you ultimately are talking just from a passionate place, right? You're just passionate about what you're saying, and people buy into that passion and that excitement and that energy that you give. And it's only when you get that is when you're doing something you truly, 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 truly love to do.
You can't fake passion.
No, you can't. You cannot. You cannot fake passion or anger. It's just one of those two things you can't fake.
Not sustained anyway. Not sustained. I mean, you put it on for a bit.
Yeah, but not true. People will see through it very quickly. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this today. And Cathy's club, that's for the laughter yoga, and for your composting is
Cathy'sComposters.com.
Perfect. Got it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.